A returning franchise from the early days of the channel, here's The Incredible Hulk on the DS. This also marks the first game I've covered based on an MCU film, and the first time I've ever played one at all. The film I thought was okay, still one of my lesser liked films, down there with the likes of Thor the Dark World. I liked it more than the Ang Lee film though. When it comes to Hulk branded stuff in the MCU, I actually much prefer the more divisive She-Hulk series. Of course, when it comes to covering a second Hulk game after the one based on the Ang Lee film, one would probably expect either Ultimate Destruction or at least this game's console counterpart. But if you've been watching long enough, then you know me, please nobody. Starting a new game gets a cutscene with Bruce Banner introducing himself to me while having a nice walk in the snow, until he hulks out because it's too cold or something. The game is a side-scrolling platformer where the Hulk can severely damage or destroy almost every bit of floor or wall. Going left and climbing the wall, grabbing an item to fill my rage meter, I get a tutorial marker telling me I can do a rage vault from a satellite or flag. It sends the Hulk flying forward, both fists out, making these two gunmen in my way eat absolute shit. As I reach this ice wall, I instead do a rage jump by holding a shoulder button to reach another rage power-up, but since my meter is still full, I can't take it. Rage makes me temporarily invincible and destroys whatever I come into contact with. Another satellite up top to send me flying into more soldiers. The Hulk has 3 directions of attack: a standard punch, an uppercut, and a ground punch. The guns these guys have shoot massive bullets by the way, 4 times the size of the Hulk's head. The Hulk has 5 units of health, but there's enough health restoring items in the levels. Inside the ice wall here is a Hulk icon, which unlocks a new costume. This one gets me the Grey Hulk. After that, more of the level is just taking on individual soldiers, smashing through ice, and then making huge vaults across chunks of the level. There's also the odd boulder I can punch forward to demolish a soldier with. I can even kill them by jumping on them. At the end of the level is a satellite dish to destroy, and I'm given some stats and told I missed a collectible. I get put on a map screen and move to my next level, where I can also change my skin. No reason not to use them all, but back into the frosty tundra to find the second collectible. Since I'm just starting, I still have no idea how completion works, so for the first 2 levels I smash nearly every bit of scenery I can, marked as a blue square on the bottom screen. There's a percentage at the top of the bottom screen that I interpreted as scenery destroyed at first, but actually keeps track of enemies killed. This is also where I discover that I have a ground pound attack while in the air. It's down this hill past the halfway point of the level, hiding under this platform. This is a life container and grants me an extra unit of health. A lot of time wasting floor smashing later, I finish the level again. Now for Alaska Stage 2, Frigid Cavern. So here I'm in a slightly more cramped space inside this cave. Of course, right now I still think I need to break everything, so the footage of me jumping to punch out every ceiling tile is so tedious to watch back until I eventually come to my senses. Early on, the path splits and I take the upper route, requiring a rage jump to a satellite. I explore all the alternate routes in this corner, but it turns out to not be worth the time as the collectible isn't up here. I do face my first mortar firing enemy though. For some reason the mortars are smaller than the bullets. The rest of the level is very linear, just running through a tunnel that changes direction, punching men out. Sometimes going down, other times going up. I can imagine many levels won't get much talk because of their simple designs not leaving much to bring up. After a long climb up I get another split in the path. To the left is a satellite shooting me up, but to the right there's a set of ice walls hiding the level's only collectible, a Savage Hulk skin. After that is another climb up to the end of the level. The satellite would have led me straight there. Alaska 3 is the mountain ascent, which I do as a Savage Hulk, giving me the classic shorts. After I realise there is a point to at least killing all the enemies, as it marks the level icon as green in recognition of it. So I clear the Frigid Cavern again while doing so. I will not be pointing out every single enemy. The first path of this level is very basic, with a mostly flat path forwards. There are abandoned houses for enemies to hide on though. The Hulk can't walk through the walls, he's not rude, he can only smash through the windows if he wants to get past. There are now snipers with jetpacks who fire 3 bullets at once. Eventually I end up going inside another cave. I can climb to rage vault all the way through it, which is fun, but I still have to go back in to kill the soldiers I skipped. After that is a small uphill climb with more houses and small caves to smash through. As I enter a larger cave up this hill, the collectible is hidden in plain sight. This gets me the Banner Hulk skin. Further uphill is a larger, more maze-like cave for me to clear out, then the rest of the level takes place in the cave that has me mostly climbing. I get outside, plough through the remaining enemies and finish the level. Stage 4 is Mountain Peaks, which I do in my new lab coat. Back in the cave, but now I have massive liquid nitrogen tanks all over the level that freeze a Hulk for a few seconds. That first satellite is pretty satisfying, flying straight up and wiping out the first 16% of the level's enemies. Plus the one after it makes me run through more of them. After that we have another more maze-like section before going downhill and getting new purple snipers that fire a spread shot of smaller bullets. Then comes a large upward section with plenty more opportunities to get frozen. Near the top of this climb there's the collectible below an ice block, and I somehow miss it first time. It's the Mr. Fix-It skin. At the top of this climb it leads back outside where the last few enemies are before I reach the end. Alaska 5 is the Icy Den, but first I swap my lab coat out for a waistcoat and tie. I'm in a tiny cave and have to fight a Yeti. He'll throw chunks of ice from the ground and after taking enough hits will hide under the snow and try to escape me while more ice falls from the ceiling. He'll then surface for an uppercut before taking a few more hits and going under again. But my impatience to make him surface gets me killed first time. Next time I also use my rage meter to deal extra damage. Doing so lets me kill him in just over half a minute. On to stage 6, the Icy Tunnels. Another maze-like cave with nitrogen tanks, only this one is very cramped with a very low ceiling for most of it. I do get a new enemy here, a soldier with a flamethrower. Apart from that there isn't anything interesting to bring up here. I die in this level from being careless. Who would have thought the Hulk's weakness was being shot in the arse? No checkpoints in this game, which is fair enough, the levels aren't actually that long when you aren't hunting down every enemy, at first. This time I use a rage vault for some proper revenge against the one that killed me. The collectible is just there in the open between two tanks near the end, you can't miss it. It gets me the Professor Hulk skin, and soon after I finish the level. That Fix-It outfit was too formal. Let's go for a nice vest tucked into some trousers. Frozen Forest is the 7th Alaska stage. It starts off looking like all of the others, but once I ground pound my way out of this starting cave, I can see there are a few trees around. This one has me travel to one side to get inside a tree, climb it until I can go the other way until I can climb higher and then repeat. The visual change from the last few levels is appreciated though. Once over half the enemies are dead, there's a big gap and a drop to the bottom before I start the climb again. But this time the width of the area between each ascent is much smaller. Once I get to the top and start climbing down, there's another costume hiding inside a tree, the Hulk 2099 skin. The drop to the bottom takes me to the final two enemies surrounding the level exit. Don't accidentally hit that first while aiming for the enemies, or in this case die right in front of the exit. One more run through to finish the level with all the enemies dead, but not me. I've been wearing enough tops recently, now it's time to just look a bit gross. Maybe it looks better in the comics, I don't know. Stage 8 is the research rig. Look at his joy at finally being out of icy plains and caves. The collectible is right there at the start, just out of my reach. Instead I have to start at a different corner and walk around to drop down in front of the Ultimate Hulk skin. After that it's just a bit of climbing and descending. There are conveyors here that have me needing to crouch to be slid under walls. The nitrogen tanks also return. I also get a new enemy, dynamite soldiers. Just punch them out before they can set off the explosion. A lot of them use the conveyors too. Hide at the end of one and just let the dynamite gently move along it towards you. After over half the enemies are killed, the level opens up a bit, away from the cramped spaces. The rest of it is a very straightforward walk to the end, with all the enemies easily reachable out in the open. Bored of being gross now, back to being grey, just with different shorts. Stage 9 is the Glacial Sea. I wasn't expecting this game to have Mario-esque underwater levels. I do love the Hulk's over-the-top windmills when he swims though. So here I'm just swimming through these levels, breaking whatever ice blocks my path. I have diver soldiers firing their 3 small bullets, demolition divers dropping dynamite and letting it sink down towards me, and more liquid nitrogen tanks. But that is it in terms of hazards, so the rest of the level is just me swimming to the next red dot on the map to kill it. The collectible is just laying there on top of the tank, the green Scar skin. It's a perfectly fine level, but doesn't leave me with much else, so let's skip to the end. I hurt my arm and got bored of being grey again, so I wrap it up and move on to the final Alaska level, Shipwreckage. This is a boss fight against a big lobster mech. I have to avoid the bullets and missiles it fires to give it a punch before it forces me away and swaps which side of the screen it approaches me from. That's the entire fight. I die first time but get it on the second. And then move right onto the next set of 10 levels in Brazil. Stage 1 here is Favela. We get text saying that these stages are set 5 years after Bruce's Alaskan escape. But that's all before the level starts. After all the blues I had in those first 10 stages, the sudden change in colour to the environments was a genuine shock to my eyes. Luckily we're in the abandoned house district so no civilians are harmed. Demolition soldiers now have jetpacks outside of water too. This level is a lot of jumping over or through houses of varying heights, and first time I die without even killing 10% of the enemies. Interesting that I'm now a third of the way through the game and it's still got tutorial markers telling me how to rage vault. In this case I need it to run through this tornado. They're very polite tornadoes, just staying in place, not destroying or even disrupting anything. After a few grounded rage vaults I finally get another new enemy, big soldiers with miniguns, but a single punch ends them like the rest. We definitely have more enemies than I'm used to before, as now a single one's death is worth less than 2%. There is a fun moment here where they put a rage vault right in front of about 5 big enemies so you can just tear right through them all. Then another one in the air that launches me straight through a building full of soldiers. Around the 78% mark, if you've killed everything so far, There's a roof I can rage jump onto for my second life container. I get to the end, no unlockable costume this time. And then for stage 2, we have sewers. It's just one of the previous cave levels but grimier. Instead of ice blocks, I'm smashing through iron bars. Flamethrower guys have jetpacks now, that's new I guess. Though there is a lot more rage vaulting than in those caves, and more enemies placed to take advantage of them. Punching a boulder into a jetpack guy is fun, especially when contact with his toes just makes him explode. The thing with these flamethrower guys is that the tanks on their backs look just like huge cartoony pieces of meat on a bone to me. This level goes a bit devious by putting the level goal in front of each stage's last remaining 10% of enemies, so I have to rage vault over it. These 5 are part of one long climb and series of rage vaults. The final vault drops me into the collectible. Or it would, but I somehow barely moved past it, so I have to do the climb again. I grab the World War Hulk skin and finish the level. I've been dressed as a gladiator long enough, so I take off my helmet and shoulder pad but leave the rest on. I'm also a darker green again. Stage 3 is the Coral Reef, another underwater stage just with bits of coral replacing the ice, and underwater minigun soldiers. But that's about it, it's not that different. Using the rage meter to swim through a load of enemies feels good at least. I do die a couple times here because I'm really bad at not swimming into dynamite. If you kill everything, as you see it get to 35%, the collectible is hidden near the ceiling, the Maestro skin. The rest of the level is just killing the many enemies, who are worth 1.6% each, so squeeze that into 100 if you need to know the amount. I can't be asked to do it myself. I got my maths GCSE 15 years ago, I don't need numbers anymore. Honestly, this one was so long it got boring by the end. So boring I visibly aged while playing it. I assume Maestro is a separate character to the Hulk, I don't know who he is. Stage 4 is downtown. Here I'm running across an endless string of roofs. Oh, to have the enemy deaths be worth more than 2% again. It's not all on roofs though, I sometimes go inside as well. A lot of demolition guys in this one, more than usual. I've run out of commentary, this level gives me nothing to work with. I make it to the end having missed the collectible. It's here, at this point on the roof. You have to turn around to get the Rick Jones Hulk skin. I recognise the name from the Mr. Sunday Movies video, the one on that 60s Avengers cartoon, but other than that I know nothing about this character. The old man look wasn't working, so I shaved and dyed my hair. Stage 5 is a place I actually recognise, the bottling plant Bruce works at while hiding in the film. We even get a cutscene of Bruce on the run from Blonsky. He runs into the factory which is then bombed and the level starts with him already hulked out and a different person. It's another mini-boss, a guy in a mech suit with a jetpack who fires big purple spreads and drops dynamite all over the place. I just activate my rage and watch his health plummet, ignoring my own plummeting health and dying first. I mix up my strategy by doing the exact same thing, and only winning because I was lucky enough to not get hit as much this time. It was actually Blonsky in the mech, which was a surprise because it didn't look like him. This is when he's told by General Ross that Bruce is the Hulk and gives him all the backstory. I'm not going to recap the film. Brazil Stage 6 next, Deep Jungle. This one has me punching through trees, but not enough to make them fall over. Now, I'm not sure how this works with this one that I vault all the way up the inside of, or how that man at the top got inside without leaving a hole. A new enemy in this one, man carrying a box who explodes when punched. It's not all in trees though, there are some mountains I can run around inside too. At 52% of enemies killed, my next life container is out in the open, embedded in a tree. Can I have a new costume please? They're the easiest thing to get the bare minimum commentary out of with this game. Stage 7 is named just Lake, another underwater level, and this one is a tease as it puts the level goal right behind an unbreakable wall at the start. Coral is swapped out for weird gross seaweed in this level. A lot of it hides more satellites for rage vaulting through otherwise unbreakable crates. Enemies also add 1.7% when killed, so there's a lot of them. Mostly dynamite soldiers again. This one does have more to separate it from the others as the level is more of a maze than the previous underwater ones, and there is a puzzle element in finding where the satellite is to break the crate you're wanting to get past. It's just that the game's visual style with no real landmarks makes it very hard to describe a route through. The exploding boxmen made it underwater though, as did the dudes with flamethrowers. Underwater. At the 92% mark, there's a maze of currents and satellites to work out, with one of the paths leading me to the Hulkbuster Iron Man skin. Now that's a cool extra, can't wait to try that out. The end of the level isn't too far away either, so I don't have to wait long. Except that the game won't let me choose the costume I unlocked. The rest of the costumes from now on, despite you finding them, the game won't let you choose until you beat the final level. I guess it's to add replay value or something, but it failed. I wasn't going to go back and replay any levels just to see the costume I unlocked but they pointlessly held back. Stage 8 is the Ruins, another maze-like level. There's the inner ruins to get through and the outer ruins on top to deface by smashing through its pillars. I'd sound more enthused, but that costume fuckery took the only part of this script I liked working on, so I've got Monk on a bit. A lot of smashing through pillars until I end up back inside and start working my way to the lower level. I get moving left and it leads back to where I started, and now I have to do it again for the left side of the level. But going back to the top right corner, a satellite I used was hiding the classic Abomination skin. So I do all that again on the left side and have opened up the gap to the level exit. And classic Abomination is also locked until I beat the game. You just took something from me that gave me mild enjoyment of the Incredible Hulk on Nintendo DS, so now I just alternate between the costumes I already have. Stage 9 is the Canopy. More climbing and smashing through trees, except this time the trees are wider. A new enemy in this one, helicopters with guns. It's nice to total a helicopter with one punch, but it's dampened a bit because all enemies are worth the same amount of smash percentage, and taking down a helicopter only being worth 1.9% just makes it feel a bit less special. Apart from the helicopters, it's nothing I haven't covered before. At the 34% mark where you take out a helicopter, rage jump to the right for the Ironclad skin that I can't use yet. I die once I end up in the mountains, and even apart from that the level feels like it goes on forever. Glad to be done with that one. Now for Brazil's boss stage, the Upper Canopy. It's a very big mech with wind turbines instead of legs. It tries to blow me away and keep me down, but there's this handy flag for me to vault from and give it a smack with. But it also throws out a handful of dynamite when you do that. And there's missiles too. It's the usual strategy again. Throw myself at it mindlessly in rage mode, die first time, do the exact same thing again, die a second time to mix things up, but then repeat it again and win. With Brazil done, I can move on to the United States for the final 10 levels. Stage 1 is the University. Blonsky is given his little Captain America jab for taking on the Hulk with, while Bruce meets with Dr. Stearns. He takes a sample of Bruce's blood in the hopes that he can cure him, commenting that certain data owned by the army might help them. This leads to Bruce meeting Betty at the university. General Ross has taken it all, but Betty managed to hide away a copy. Blonsky prepares to snipe at Bruce, but he spots him. Bruce gets surrounded by the army and makes this face, which is a far worse act than anything he did as the Hulk. The army restraining Betty as she tries to help Bruce sets off the Hulk again. Remember my comment earlier about levels not being too long? Well, forget it now. This level is massive and way too long for just smashing through more buildings. I do like that first rage vault that lands me right on some poor guy's head. This university must be shit though for the sheer amount of abandoned dilapidated buildings on site. I get a new enemy here, soldiers with huge red buster swords, along with jeeps with guns on. What doesn't help the level's length is the pointlessly complex series of satellites that launch you all over the place just to get through a building in front of you that sends you a good distance back if you mess one of them up. I liked getting inside the longer buildings, setting off my rage and watching everything explode around me at least. Then after several minutes, most of which is taken up by annoying rage vault puzzles, I finally reach the end and have a boss fight against Blonsky. But he's taller than the Hulk. He can slow you down by stamping his feet like a toddler, but a few punches does him in. I also missed a collectible, so I have to do it again. I get a 4-second cutscene of Blonsky laying out on the floor. This collectible took me a few more attempts to find. It's a life container on top of the building in the second half of the level. I was very sick of this level by the time I was done. Stage 2 is more sewers, but these sewers are an underwater level. This one is the most cramped one and the most obviously linear one. After the previous level, it was a much needed change to just have something straightforward. It almost feels deliberate, giving me a level where I can activate my rage meter and watch everything die around me without having to mess about for a single enemy or anything like that. The swordsmen have underwater variants too, along with submarines that fire missiles. Things get more complex around the halfway point, but not in a frustrating way. A lot of swimming through currents or using rage vaults to swim against them. It's still a long level though, I just didn't get fed up with it. The series of rage vaults that have you ripping through several soldiers in a row was fun. The collectible is right at the end behind the level goal, the Hulkbuster Iron Man Mark III skin. I can't even preview the costume I've unlocked but actually haven't. Stage 3 moves us onto the suburbs. This level mixes things up by having you travel to the left instead of right. As you may expect for a stage set in a suburb, it's a lot of jumping over smaller buildings over a flat level. There's also a lot of enemies, considering each one is worth 1.1%. I get another new enemy in these big guys throwing huge hexagons at me. About a quarter of the way through the enemies, I can find a Korg costume on a roof that I also can't use yet. I did know of Korg before Thor Ragnarok, but only by a few months. I was buying Christmas presents and saw what I thought was a figure of the Thing until I saw the name. Funny to think, Korg may now be more recognised among kids than the Thing at this moment in time. Another new enemy in these trucks with someone in the back throwing shit out. Can punch that and send it flying through several soldiers. That's about all I have to say about this level. It's about half the length of the university, thankfully. For stage 4 we have slums and we're still moving left. This one has a lot more larger buildings acting as mazes I need to smash through. While nothing new happens, I may as well take the time to just say that the soundtrack is good at least. It's definitely more memorable than the soundtrack of the last Hulk game I looked at, in that I can remember more than 0 tracks. We get guys with rocket launchers now, not that they're any more a threat than the others. The army's run out of vehicles it seems and have commandeered diggers. Because if missiles can't harm the Hulk, a clump of mud must be able to. And who piled this building full of guys with explosives in positions where they can't move at all without dying? Ross is an even bigger monster than I thought. First time, I die bouncing off a man's head, then I rocket to the arsehole. Around the 72% mark, I could turn around on top of this building and jump to the collectible for the Heroim the Shamed skin. I've never heard that name before. And then the rest of the level happens. And for stage 5 we have our next mini-boss in the lab complex. It's another mech with a cannon in its belly, and this one has lightning powers for some reason. It also keeps the wind moves from the previous boss. Another one that I just throw myself at and it dies first time in 34 seconds. Stage 6 is the warehouse district. That describes just about every level set in a public place. We're back to moving right again. This one has more smashing through wider buildings. Rocket launcher soldiers get their jetpacks in this one. We also have tanks. I clear the level without finding the collectible. It's here, on this roof, a life container. I have run out of filler. Stage 7, Harbour, has me back underwater. This one is just kind of tedious, filling so much of a level with scenery you have to slowly smash through to get anywhere if you don't want to use a rage meter. And killing enemies only puts the percentage up by 1%. I clear out one corner of the map to be returned to the start in the centre with the way to another opened up, and it's just a lot of that. Doesn't help that the level goes on for an eternity. Here's a collectible at the 88% mark, a Bi-Beast skin, another character I've never heard of. Then I crash into a stray missile and die at 93% nearly 10 minutes into the level. I at least managed to take that time down to just under 7 minutes when I beat it next try. Stage 8 is in Chinatown, another basic town level, but they were sneaky and put one enemy behind the start in the hopes of ruining someone's day if they miss it. Let's skip over this, there is nothing more that can be said. This Crows has jetpacks now, the Madman skin is here on the floor near the end, and thanks to the last game I did, I know of that character. Level took 8.5 minutes. Stage 9 and the last proper level is the retail district. It's like the rest of these last few long levels. At the end of the level is the last new enemy, a fighter jet dropping missiles below. At the end is one last, very long rage vault up this building to reach the final collectible. I don't know how that's pronounced. And that just leaves the final boss fight in Harlem. It has a cutscene where Stearns prefers to try to cure Bruce, which seems to work at first. But when Stearns mentioned he made duplicates of the formula that transformed Bruce, they start arguing over destroying them. But Bruce gets tranked and taken by the army, and Blonsky has Stearns inject him with Hulk juice that interferes with the Captain America juice he has in him, and there's the Abomination for the final boss fight. Abomination has a ground punch and runs along trying to deck me, but I just keep bouncing in his head until he dies in 25 seconds, exactly how it went in the film. The Hulk celebrates his win and jumps off, while Betty walks away from her dad. Credits. I'm finally allowed to use the rest of those costumes at a point where I'm done playing, so this attempt to add some weird extra value to them wound up making them go unused. You may think with all my complaining that I hated this game. I actually didn't. I didn't even dislike it. The game was just okay. What I hated was the scripting part of this video because while the game is just fine, it's also all very samey with level design that left me with very little to talk about. And I kind of needed things to talk about for the video. And as soon as I beat the game I knew it would end up like this. This playthrough was done the day after I played Herbie Rescue Rally for this channel, and yet this video is coming months later because I just kept putting it off. But the game is fine. The Hulk feels how he should when placed into a 2D platformer. They didn't make him slow and sluggish, he's quick with great jumping strength. The issue comes from many levels being bland visually and the fact that those last few levels are just too long, especially if you want to complete them fully by killing all the enemies. It doesn't have the lows of the Ang Lee game I covered since it doesn't have any horrible banner stealth sections, but that game more than wins out in terms of character and giving the Hulk more to work with in gameplay. Like the Wii, I've done the DS a disservice on this channel by having only done 2 just okay licensed games.